This is Mitch at the 1000houses.com podcast. So I'm here with David Essel, and this guy's really dear to my heart because sometimes in life, the right people come and sit in front of you and help you sort your crap out. And I had some baggage I was carrying. I had been drinking and smoking for 40 years. I didn't smoke the whole time, but the last 10 years pretty heavy, and it was killing me. And I'm going to confess right now, because maybe David may not even know this, but I got him on my podcast under the pretext that we work in a business with a bunch of AAA people, real estate investors running around with like chickens with their heads cut off. And we're all AAAs half the time and ADD, and there's a lot of alcohol, and there's a lot of alcoholism. I see it every day. Every meeting's over alcohol. If you're not careful, the lunches will start to be about alcohol. And it's just everywhere. And I'm sure it's not just real estate investors. It's probably anybody who's wound up in their business and in their clique and their niche. Alcohol was at all the RIA meetings. It was everywhere. And I wanted to stop. I was very afraid to stop. So I got him on under the pretext that there's a lot of people out there that need help. The truth of the matter was I needed help, and I needed to quiz this guy, and I wanted to meet this guy because he had a holistic approach to solving addictions, whether they be drugs or alcohol. And I was very interested in that because, and I'm not bashing the other way, but the other way you walk in and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I've been an alcoholic for 15 years, or I'm an alcoholic. And I thought, why the hell would you claim that? Because what we know about life today and the way the brain works, 99 years later, you don't go claim that. If you're a paraplegic one day and you stand up and walk, you're no longer a paraplegic. So why would you keep walking in on your two legs and saying I'm a paraplegic when you obviously aren't? Anyways, long story short, I quit drinking on August the 1st, 2019, smoking and drinking on the same day. I give a lot of credit to David Essel. I've taken a long time to explain this, but it's important to me, and David's important to me. How you doing, David?
Mitch, it's great to be with you. And anytime you want to do that under the pretense in order to benefit your own life, my God, do it, Mitch. It doesn't matter as long as it works. And that's what our whole philosophy is in recovery. Of course, recovery is about 20% of my work, and then the rest of it goes into all kinds of different topics. But I love recovery because we found, Mitch, as you know, a system that is very different than what has been taught for 80 years. And if that works for you, what's been taught for 80 years, keep doing it. If you're clean, sober, happy, and you're happy, and that's the key, Mitch. A lot of people can stop drinking and they're miserable. It's called a dry drunk. And they're irritable and they're impatient and they're snippy to their partners and their children and all that other kind of stuff, But what you see as you go to Mitch 3.0 is that, everything that you're doing is making you happier. It's making you healthier. And that's when we know you're in a good recovery program, is when you're happy and you're making changes other than just stopping drinking.
Yeah. David's been recovered for how many years now?
Long time.
He doesn't like to say because he's not keeping track.
That's right.
I get it. And so we're going to talk about the one key that all happy people have in common. And I just feel this is important because I could not go any further in my life with the weight that I was carrying. It was occupying too much of my time. It was occupying too much of my space. It was occupying too much of my mind. And it was making me inadvertently, you don't know, but just if you start to look at it, I'm making decisions based on my proclivities to gravitate towards alcohol and cigarettes. So I was making lots of decisions, 30 to 40 hours a week. I was hinging around that, and I needed more time, and I found it there. And I guess it's all in order to become a happier person. So I found this topic to be right in line with my personal cause, and maybe many of you out there. If you're thinking about quitting, it took me like 2 years to decide because I was afraid I couldn't quit. And then, crap was going to escalate to a whole nother level. Like if I couldn't quit by myself or with, a little help from my friends, then I would have to take it to a whole nother level. And that scared the living hell out of me. Luckily, I didn't have to go there. I quit I got it handled by myself in, you know, close quarters with a few friends like David and stuff. But so let's see, the one key that all happy people have in common, and this seems to be a theme. David Allen, I'm sorry, Robert Allen, one of my heroes I just interviewed, you know, just put out a book, The 4 Maps to Happy, Successful People. And everyone's trying to find the key and the cure. Talk to us about that one key that all happy people have.
Well, you know, Mitch, it's interesting that you say Robert Allen. Years ago, I hosted an infomercial where Robert was the star and I was the host. It was awesome. And it was about real estate. You know, it was about, you know, it was just, he was great. And I'll never forget, I was able to spend probably about a day with him in Orlando on the TV set, asking him questions. We had a live audience behind us. You know, it was really, really fun. But so when we think about happiness, Mitch, a lot of people think, well, the happiest people are those that have the most money, or the happiest people are those that have the best bodies, or the happiest people are those that have the best relationship, or the happiest people are those, and all of those could be true. You could be happy by having money, or you could be unhappy having money. You could be happy if you had a great partner, or you could be unhappy. So those things could go either way. But there is one trait that every happy person has, and it's a fancy therapeutical term called emotional regulation. Every happy person has learned, and this is not a trait you're born with. This is something you got to learn. Every happy person has learned how to emotionally regulate themselves. Now, since we're talking about addiction in the beginning, let's just make that analogy. So a person who's really happy, they would go, yeah, I just had a beer and that was great. And I'd love to have another one, but you know, that could lead to a third, fourth, and fifth. So I'm going to emotionally regulate. In other words, I'm going to step in my own way and say, that's enough. You really don't need any more. But a person that can't emotionally regulate would be like you and I when we were alcoholics in the past. We would say, oh, hell, it's Tuesday, it's 10 o'clock at night. We'll just have one more. It's Tuesday, it's 1 o'clock. Let's just have one more.
The hell with regulation.
That's right. Regulation is not for me. And let me give you another story that I think makes it really super clear, because this is something people, I'm going to make this comment again, Mitch. You have to work at this to become a champion in emotional regulation, just like you have to work to lose weight. You know, if you're overweight, it ain't going to come via your thoughts. You're not going to lose weight. And if you want to be in control of your emotions, you're going to have to practice. But here's another great example. 2 people are going to the airport, catch a flight. They both get up super early. They're both packed in time. They're going to get to the airport 3 hours before their flight leaves. They're both very at peace. The day is moving smoothly. Halfway to the airport, there's an announcement. Now they're in 2 separate cars. There's an announcement on the radio. Accident at this junction. 3-hour delay. They both look at their clocks, they're going to miss their flight. The person who is not emotionally regulated flips out and justifies their flipping out, calling friends, family, this is BS, this is crap, this shouldn't be happening. Like they get so riled up.
Why me?
Why me? Right. Victim, martyrhood, you know, all that kind of stuff. They're angry. Now, the person who is emotionally regulated has frustration. They could be angry. They could be upset that they're going to miss their flight. And they give themselves 5 minutes to really feel that. They could hit the dashboard. They could do whatever. But 5 minutes later, they stop right away. They go, okay, that's all I needed now. Let me get on the phone. Let me call the airlines. I don't need to call my 6 friends and complain a bitch about what just happened. Let me be proactive. Another example of emotional regulation in relationships, I've just been teaching this couple for the last year, Mitch, and it can take a long time. They have a long-term relationship and it's based on arguing. They love to argue. They both have to be right. One of them can't walk away from an argument, no matter how small. They've got to say one more little push there, you know? They got to push that button one more time. They got to roll their eyes. They got to sigh. You know, they got to make some big dramatic thing out of it. So I've been working with them and we finally got a breakthrough. So emotional regulation with a couple that goes into repetitive disagreements would be one of them has to think, all right, here we go down that road again. I'm going to take a big breath and let them win. I'm going to take a big breath and just say, you know, honey, let's wait another hour or two and let's come back to the topic. In other words, someone is in control of their emotions, but it's not easy, Mitch. You got to really work at this.
Can I say that was one of the things, like when I was trying to make changes, you know, from 2.0 to 2.1 to 2.2, like, you know, I deemed myself Mitch 2.0 at the beginning of this journey. And then I quit smoking, 2.1. I was 2.1 now. And I quit drinking, I was 2.2. Actually, I couldn't quit smoking, I discovered, unless I quit drinking, because my willpower to go out. So, but every time I made another step, I added 2 point whatever to the end. I'm up to 2.9 now. But one of the things was I had to learn to recognize when I was at the decision point where I was going to go over the edge, or whatever it was, whether it was, am I going to make the decision to get out of bed and go work out or not? Right at that point, and then I had to decide when I get to that point, one, how to recognize it. Two, when I get there, what am I going to use, either psychologically or whatever, to engage me or disengage me from whatever it is I'm thinking about. And
yeah.
It's so right, man. Just learning to recognize it is the first step, you know?
It is. And you know, Mitch, the very first thing we do is we ask our clients to start on a daily basis to chart the times when they emotionally lose it. Maybe in traffic, you know, they have a minor road rage, or maybe they're on the phone and they're put on hold and they freak out being put on hold, you know, and
mine is
what?
When my computer doesn't work, I completely lose my shit.
Okay.
I want to break it with a hammer. I mean, I've taken all hammers out of reach away from me.
So what we do is, so we would have Mitch write down the 2 or 3 areas of life where that he hasn't learned how to really control those emotions. So when you put it in writing, that's the first step. Now we're hyper aware. Now you can say in your brain, Mitch, you know, the next time my computer goes down, I'm going to not freak out. But when you put it in writing, and then here's the next key. What are you going to do when your computer doesn't work instead of freaking out? So we have the problem. I don't have good emotional control when my electronics go down. And then we have to write, well, what am I going to do? It might be taking 5 big breaths. It might be slapping your hands really hard one time to sort of snap yourself out of it. It's out of my control. I don't have control over this computer. Let me reboot. Let's see if that works. It's like, so we write down a list of steps to take so that we have tools, Mitch, because listen, if let's say with you, with a computer, how many years have you had a computer?
Long enough.
Yeah. So we got our first one in 1995. So from 1995 to today, and let's say you got one in 1995.
Yeah. It's been, 15 years, 20 years. I don't know.
Exactly. Okay. Now, in your subconscious mind, and you and I have talked about this a ton, when you set a pattern for 20 years that when the computer doesn't work, or the iPhone doesn't work, or the iPad doesn't work, that you freak out or you get really upset, that subconscious wants to keep that pattern going because you fed it that pattern, just like drinking. You fed it, right? So now you have to say, what am I going to substitute for my freak out with the electronic devices? And that's why we write it down. Then you have that next to you. Now, if you're willing to do the work, Mitch, we can snap that habit in a heartbeat, just like we can. When I say a heartbeat, if it's been 20 years, it might take 6 months to snap it, but 6 months is a heartbeat compared to 20 years of frustration, right?
Mm-hmm. So what would I do? Coach me now on just that one subject. What?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, I gave one example. Number one, to snap ourselves out of it so the computer doesn't come on. And you start to feel the blood pressure rise, you start to feel your frustration, snap your or clap your hands right in front of your face to break that concentration. So that you go, okay, now what are my other options? Then we look at it, I can reboot the computer. That's my second option. First one is to snap myself out of it. Second one, let's reboot. That often helps almost all electronic devices. I don't know why, right? But it does. If that doesn't work, I'm going to walk away from the desk for 15 minutes and take a big breath, just let myself relax a little bit. Then I'm going to come back. I'll call someone, IT support, whatever I have to do. So those would be 3 steps, right? That we would say, number one, snap your hands to get yourself out of that mindset. Number 2, reboot. And if that doesn't work, get up and walk away. Just give yourself 10, 15 minutes to take a break and then come back. We do the same thing with relationships. You know, we say someone's got to go, no, I can't go down that path again. And they're the ones that have to stand up and say, let's take an hour. We'll come back and discuss this tonight. Or let's wait till tomorrow, honey. Or the most ultimate move, if it's not a huge decision, is, you know what? Let's do it your way.
Wow. So one of the things I found that was causing me a lot of the stress points in my life was I wasn't showing up early enough. And if anything went wrong, or if the computer I didn't have time to reboot. You know, the guys, Robert Allen's waiting for me right now. It was a big deal. And for whatever reason, today my computer decides not to work. I wasn't getting there early enough. So I made up my mind to get every place 15 minutes early, which means to me, I have to plan to get there 30 minutes early because I'm a 15-minute later guy, you know? So if I'm supposed to be someplace at 7, I put it in my computer. I'm supposed to be there at 6:30. I mean, I just, you know, and I start like that, and I don't, it's kind of stupid, but anyways, you learn how to deal with your bullshit yourself, right?
Yeah, Mitch, you know, that's a step of solution. That's not bullshit. That's a solution step. We say, hey, I show up late. I'm going to make myself believe that I've got to be there early. It really doesn't matter. But see, that's a tool that I'm talking about. Now, I will tell you this. As you apply that tool and you get better at it, your happiness level is going to go up. Because when you get there, there isn't the frantic adrenaline rush. And I want to make this, go ahead. You got something to say?
Getting in on 2 wheels and you're all flustered and you're on, and it's like they start talking to you before you even have a chance to come down. And you just don't feel professional and in control as you do when you're 15 minutes early and you get to go have a coffee and you're sitting down and you're waiting for them to show up. And then they show up flustered. It's like, I have the upper hand, man. I'm calm and cool. This guy's all flustered. I'm gonna negotiate his pants off. Watch.
Right. Okay. So now you're in control emotionally. And that is what's going to lead you to be a happier when you're negotiating, a happier partner, a happier friend is when you're able to control those emotions. And right now in this country, with the racial unrest and all the other crap going down, this topic is super important. I mean, you know, I tell people that our government officials need to learn this. You know, they need to learn how to emotionally regulate instead of just like going off as many of them do with their tirades and their anger and all that kind of stuff. You know, there's no emotional regulation there. But our country really needs it right now to be able to start to calm things down. And let me make a couple of comments. When I think of people in the past who mastered emotional regulation, Martin Luther King, a master of it. Gandhi, a master of emotional regulation. Nelson Mandela, a master. Now, these guys were the best negotiators the world has ever seen. There's no one that could out-negotiate Gandhi. There's no one that can out-negotiate Martin Luther King, and there's no one that could out-negotiate Nelson Mandela. Why do I say that? Gandhi brought India back to own its own country from British rule with no force whatsoever. That's how powerful he was as a negotiator. He was so in control of his emotions that when the British government continued to pummel him over and over again with no concessions on their part, he stood silently. He would go on fasts. He would argue with the quietest voice. And, you know, all attorneys know this, Mitch. When you're in the courtroom and you use a really soft voice, everyone has to listen. And these guys just mastered the whole concept of emotional regulation. I mean, Nelson Mandela, for God's sake, he emotionally regulated during 27 years in prison. He had 27 years to learn how to do it. And he came out to become the leader of South Africa, for God's sake. So we have role models to follow, people that do it amazingly well. And when we do it, our happiness level goes through the roof.
So this is interesting because, you know, everyone, I believe wholeheartedly, and it's cliche, but, you know, we choose to be happy or sad, and I get it. But there are things, little bitty things every day that trigger you, and we're talking smaller triggers. To the big blanket statement, You can choose to be happy or you can choose to be sad. The glass is half full or the glass is half empty. Those are great big things. So the question now is, what triggers you? And here's for the real estate investors out there. I used to get so wound up and frustrated and aggravated because it seemed like I, as a real estate entrepreneur, always had to honor my word, no matter if it cost me money or if I made money, but the aggravating times is when I had to, I honored my word, and I had to write a check to honor my word because things didn't work out the way I thought they were going to work out.
Right.
But no one ever had to honor their written signed contract to me. Tenants were screwing me. People were stealing my air conditioners when they left. And I finally had to get to a place where I said, you know what? I am bigger than all of them, and I will be more successful than all of them combined. So I cannot let them affect me now. And now when someone says, well, someone stole your air conditioner, I say, okay, call the air conditioner man. That's how my life, that's part of my success is I have to deal with that. So I'm not going to give it any time.
Good.
I can jump up and down on my desk and throw stuff across the office, and believe me, I did. And want to kill somebody, the next thief I found, even would sit there and plot and plan, how can I catch these guys so I can beat the living crap out of them? And I spent wasted so much energy on that. And then my friend Sam Madrid, who somehow had this in him more naturally, I would go, how come you're not fuming mad? They just cost us $2,500. He goes, nothing we can do about it, Mitch. We got a set of cards in our hand, and now we got to play the next card. How much, what are we going to bet? How many cards do we want? We got to go to the next move. I got no time to cry about the 5 cards I got in my hand right now. I got to figure out what the next move is. This game is moving forward.
Mitch, and for the example you just gave, what I would like the audience to do is take a moment with a pen right now and write down the several things that flip you out. Just like what you're saying. We need to see it in writing. Is it traffic? Is it your partner? Is it your children? Is it your business partner? Are there certain clients right now that just drive you nuts every time you see them texting or calling or emailing? We need to write it down, because then we have to have a plan. This stuff doesn't change because you and I are having a great conversation about it. Awareness is the first step, but awareness doesn't change a damn thing. You can, just like, knowledge is not power. It used to be, when Edison said that years ago, or whoever said it, knowledge is power, but it's not power. I know some very smart people that have really crap lives. They're knowledgeable in many areas of life, but they're not applying their knowledge. So, it's like I remember there was a Buddhist monk out in San Francisco. He led the biggest Buddhist congregation out there. He was a raging alcoholic at night. No one knew it. He was a raging alcoholic, except for those in his inner circles that took his abuse on a regular basis. Finally, one of them approached him and said, you can't be a happy person. I don't care if you're Buddhist. I don't care if you have 40 years as a Buddhist monk. You can't be happy drinking like this. And he awoken. The awareness, all of a sudden, he goes, oh my God, you're right. And he got humble, and he got vulnerable, and he asked for help. And his life turned around so dramatically. He even said in an article that the things that used to tick him off in the evening, one of his assistants not doing X, Y, or Z, he just took a big breath and started to let things flow. That's emotional regulation. But as I say to my clients, if you don't write down those areas of life where you have a tendency to knee-jerk reaction and lose it, you won't change. The awareness is there, but you have no steps to follow.
Wow, very good stuff. So the key to happiness is emotional regulation. Figure out what your triggers are. Learn to recognize when they're about to happen or happening, and then have a plan to deal with them. My deal with drinking was, when I wanted to drink, I was going to go get tea. I needed this motion going because I was this motion, but I wasn't going to put alcohol in it. So, and I had it set up, and then I found healthier things, to do. But, at first, I just wanted to hit my thumb with a hammer. I thought, well, that'll change my mind about everything. Just put it on the table and smash it with a hammer. I said, I don't feel like smoking anymore right now. For some reason, I just don't want a cigarette,
Yes.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Now, you have an event. It's non-related, although it's a subject dear to my heart. I've written 3 books myself. I didn't plan to write the first one, just kind of happened because a tragedy in my life happened, and I didn't know it, but while I was journaling, I was cataloging my life, which turned out to be my life in 1,000 houses. I didn't know anything else to talk about because I was buying a house every 4 to 5 days. That was my life. So when I said, well, I better catalog my life, I mean, houses are everywhere in it. So My Life in 1,000 Houses, Failing Forward to Financial Freedom was a book I wrote on accident. Then I chose to write 2 books on purpose because from this book, the overriding question of the day was, how in the hell do you find all these houses to buy at discounts? And so I wrote My Life in 1,000 Houses, 200 plus ways to find bargain properties. And then I wrote My Life in 1,000 Houses, The Art of Owner Financing, because I wanted to show no one was really talking about selling your houses on 30-year fixed notes and not being a landlord and just collecting a payment. At the time, I don't think anyone was talking about it in 2008, 9, 10. But writing a book is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. I don't find it. I've tried hiring ghostwriters, and I feel like it's not. I'm just paying for to write a book to put my name on it. It seems kind of jicky. I have to go through the whole thing anyways and kind of rewrite it to get my personality in the book, plus correct all the things that the ghostwriter said that I said that's not how it works. You got to change it. So it's just almost easier to write it yourself. And you have this seminar coming up on June the 27th, which is a Saturday, which is like a week and a half away, on how to write a book in 30 days. And I'm going to come myself. I want to come.
Mitch, I want you there. It is going to be so much fun. So, I started writing books 25 years ago, and I made every mistake in the world, which is why I love to teach this. We teach this one-on-one, and then we got so many people asking about it. We said, well, let's go to a webinar. Let's open it up. So people can join us on the 27th. As you mentioned, it's noon to 4 Eastern time, 11 to 3 Central time. And what we do is we go through the steps to take to make a book fun to write. Now, we've taught people how to write a complete book in 30 days. The principles that we teach and the program we teach, Mitch, if you want to learn how to write a book and take 6 months or a year or 2 years, you can. But what we wanted to show people is that if you do it the way the system we've created, you can do it as quickly as 30 days. And really, it's about organization. That's the number one thing. If you ever hit writer's block, we say in our program, you should never hit writer's block. And we tell you why you hit writer's block. Writer's block is all about an unfinished outline. In other words, before we start writing, I've got a bunch of clients one-on-one I'm taking through this program right now. And of course, a couple of them, I said, don't write any chapters until we get the outline done. Well, they're so enthusiastic, as we all are. I'm going to write this book, and they start with chapter 1, they go to chapter 2, they go to chapter 3, they go, now where do I go? And when they, right?
It's hard because you get out of order, and then you start, see, my first book I did without I've always done it without an outline, and I'm so stupid, but anyways, I need to correct that self-talk. I'm smarter than that. I'll get it better next time.
That's right.
Because I forget what I've written and I start writing things over again,
That's right.
And then it becomes confusing. And now I got to read all my own stuff from beginning to end, however many pages I have, 100 pages, to figure out if it's flowing right or not, where if I'd have just had a good outline, I would have covered ground twice,
It happens all the time. And a lot of times when you don't have a good outline, and we teach you how to do it, and we do it very specifically. When you don't have a good outline, you'll get done, you'll go, oh, wait a minute. Chapter 9 is really chapter 2. Chapter 1 is really chapter 5, and it turns into a hornet's nest. I mean, it's just this big.
It's funny you say that because I've taken all my chapters, and I'm a very visual person, and I printed them all out, and I've laid them on the floor and said, where I'm standing there in my living room with all these chapters laid out on the floor, you go, no, that chapter goes over there. So I take them and I can't do it on a screen or whatever. For some reason, I have to have them all laid out on the floor. And sometimes I'll pick them up and start reading through the chapter and go, well, that one doesn't go there. And I'll start. So finally, I got it all done on the floor, and I'll take a picture of the floor, and then I go, I don't know why. Why is that? Why?
Well, first of all, Mitch, I do the same thing. I'm a very visual person. So when my manuscript is being done, I will do the same thing that you do. I put it all on the floor because I'm a big visual person too. But the biggest difference is when you do the outline the way we teach you, it is so detailed that before you even start to write one chapter, you go, oh, no. Chapter 2 is chapter 10. Oh, wait, I'm not even going to start writing yet because 7 is 1. You know, and so we do all that before we even write one freaking paragraph. Now, that takes a lot of discipline because most of us are so excited to get writing that we go, oh, no, I got this, you know. Now, there's one of my clients right now, she has a physically and mentally, emotionally challenged child who is 20 and he's in a group home. They just got him into a group home. I've worked with him and the mom for years. I encouraged her. She's writing this most amazing book for parents that have emotionally and or physically, they might be autistic. There's all kinds of different conditions, of course. But when we started talking, I said, now let's look for sponsorship. And this is something that some of your listeners and some of your followers may like to hear. You know, if you're going to write a book on real estate, could you get a mortgage company to help sponsor? Could you get a bank to get involved? Could you, whatever. Could you get past clients who love you to write great endorsements? You know, are there other people, experts in the field that you go, you know, it'd be really super to get this person who's well known, like Robert Allen, to write a paragraph or two for this book, right? So we start thinking. So with her, she has Special Olympics. She is like that with Special Olympics. So with her Special Olympics contact, we're going to see if we can put their logo on the cover of the book that says endorsed by Special Olympics. Ronald McDonald House, she works very closely with them. So we're contacting them. Now, before she's even written the outline, we start going through and thinking of who might be a great person to put a quote in the book. What, you know, and we start doing all this promotional thought before we do the outline. That's step one. Step two, then we do the outline. But the outline, Mitch, is so detailed that we would say, let's say the chapter 1 is how I failed in the housing market before I succeeded, right? Okay, so that would be a great first chapter. Then underneath that, we'd write little storylines. My first failed home, advice from the banker, blah, blah, statistics about people that do the work that I do, right? So before we even write a freaking word, we know exactly where we're flowing from this study to this statistic, to this story, to this expert. We get it all organized and then we go to chapter 2. But we're not writing a damn word until we get to the end of all the chapters. And then the clients bring it into me and we walk through it together. Does it make sense to go from here to here? You know, with my client that's writing the book on special needs for the families, chapter 1 that she started at was so depressing, but it's her story and she's got to have it in the book, but we didn't want to start with something very depressing. So, you know, and what was great is she didn't write a thing. All of a sudden she said, oh my God, this should be chapter 5. I said, you're right. So we moved that outline and now we're starting the book with something that's filled with hope.
So I would like to, I wanted a book that moved fast. When I was younger, even today, I wasn't a very enthusiastic reader. I didn't like reading at all. And if pictures didn't have, I mean, if books didn't have pictures in them, I hated them. And if they had really fine print, I hated them even worse. And it was like pulling teeth to me. And I deemed myself as a slow reader. So when I found books that moved fast for me, I just automatically considered them a good book. Not even because the book was that good. It's just, it moved fast. Right. And a book might move fast. So I decided when I wrote my book, which was going to end up being 400 pages, well, actually I was trying to stretch to give my book more girth or make it look like it had more girth than it really did. So I started to do things to make the book thicker so it would seem thicker, more pages. I did some very interesting things. One is, you know, I started every chapter halfway down the page, big heading. So there was a half a page reprieve there. Of course, I did the font a little bit bigger, but you can't play that game or make it too obvious. Yeah. A little bit bigger font. Then I tried to finish every chapter with only one paragraph or two paragraphs on the last page. So you had a 3/4 of a page reprieve there. Then I took the 19 pictures or the 20 pictures. I hated those books that put the pictures in the middle of the freaking book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they didn't number the damn pages.
Right.
So here I am, I was turning pages, I was getting no credit for it. So I put my pictures in the chapters where they belonged, and I numbered the pages of the pictures because, damn it, it's a page and I turned it, I should get credit. Then I did some things. I did one thing that I didn't know that I was doing. And one of the resounding comments in my book is this book flies. And it's so good. And I love it because the chapters are so short. Now, I wrote short chapters because I have ADD and I don't have a long attention span. So on accident, I wrote short chapters, which meant more 3/4 page reprieves at the end, more half pages at the beginning of the chapter where I started, more, because I try to put a picture in every chapter or every other chapter, more pictures in every more pictures. So this 400 pages, you'll read 7 minutes and be on page 30, you know, and people, so if that will help with anything.
Yeah, you know, we took our book, Slow Down, The Fastest Way to Get Everything You Want, which I wrote for Hay House Publishing a number of years ago. And we started out at 8 chapters and I turned it into 16 chapters and people freaking loved it because they were shorter chapters. Over the years, you know, Mitch, it really depends to me on the book. There are some books that, like with a lot of our books that we go heavily into the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, belief systems, those can't be short chapters. There's just no way.
I get it.
You know, and but there's other chapters, you know, I mean, we've written books that are 50 pages long and we have books that are 250 pages. You know, so when we go through this with the webinar, which we encourage all of your followers to join us, you know, and let me mention this, my dad's 92. We published his book last year at 91. We got he's got a beautiful little life story and we had his book published. We will give you the tips because you may want to write a book just for your family. And that's what my dad did. He wrote a book just for the family, you know, so we have relatives and we sent a copy to relatives that are still alive. There's not a lot, but he really just wanted to have a book for the family. Maybe you want a book for your children. Maybe you want to write about what your life was like so your children understand. Maybe you want to write a book on gardening and how it's changed your life, how you've overcome some huge health issue. You know, like there's so many, maybe you want to write a mystery novel, a love novel. There's so many ways that you can inspire people with writing. And what we say is every person has at least one great book in them.
I believe that. Look, you're coming up short on your time.
Yeah.
I want to tell you this. Writing my first book on accident, I was grieving. I was cataloging my life. Some people encouraged me to turn it into a book. I wrote 1,200 pages in my grief, trying to figure out who I was, what happened, just happened, how do I go on, what have I done? Anyways, it turned into that book. It changed my life dramatically for a lot of different reasons. I've people I never would have met. I've been places I never would have gone.
Right.
It's gone out into the world, and it even when it doesn't sell, it moves from hand to hand, from garage sales to you know, people pulling it out of the trash to people saying, can I borrow that book off your coffee table? Books just go all over the place and you can never tell. There's also some tricks on how to capture who's reading your book, because Amazon's not going to give you the names of the people that order your book. So you got to do some things to get people to raise their hand and expose themselves inside your book. Very important.
Yes.
June the 27th, it's a Saturday. It's from 11 to 3 Central Standard Time, 12 to 4 Eastern Time. Please go to 1000houses.com/Essel, Essell.
No, one L.
One L. Okay. I knew that. I knew I was wrong when I said it. 1000houses.com/Essel, Essell. Go there. In the show notes, there'll be all kinds of links to, you know, if you're thinking about beating addiction, about this book seminar, whatever Dave has to offer, it'll be over there. 1000houses.com/Essel, Essell. And check it out. I'd like to thank taxfreefuture.com for sponsoring this segment. You have no idea what your financial advisors are not telling you. If you have 401ks, IRAs, health retirement plans, or health deferred tax plans, or education deferred tax plans, please go there. If you don't have them, especially go there. If you already have them, go there. Watch the 37 little video vignettes and find out how super powerful those programs are if you don't know already. There are things that you probably don't know that you can do, and there might be some things you know you shouldn't do. Go there, watch those 37 video vignettes. Taxfreefuture.com. All right, David, thank you so much. I think I'm getting out of you. You're right on time. You got to go like right now.
Mitch, always great to be with you. Thank you, brother.